Alignment. Possibly one of the most widely argued mechanics of D&D right outside of the Nat 20 rule. Spoiler alert, that's not raw. Your DM just likes being nice to you. But alignment in D&D is a categorization of the character's moral and ethical outlook, typically arranged in a 3x3 grid, though some more expansive examples also exist, like the 5x5 grid that includes intermediate steps like social, rebel, moral, and impure. But sticking with the basic 3x3 grid is what everyone knows. It's been used in D&D since the first edition in 1976 by series creator Gary Gygax. Gygax initially defined these alignments on an intersecting axis between ethical, of law, neutral, and chaotic, with moral, good, neutral, and evil, with more nuance available once we find out how these things intersect. Lawful good is defined as honor, duty, and helping others within the bounds of law and justice. Neutral good is altruism and doing the right thing without a strict attachment to order. Chaotic good is for freedom, individual-led kindness, and fighting against oppressive rules. Lawful neutral is a strict adherence to a code, ethic, tradition, or system of law, regardless of good or evil. And true neutral is the balance between all forces, prioritizing the middle ground and survival. Chaotic neutral, then, is an extreme personal freedom, whim, or unpredictability. Lawful evil is tyranny, power, and malice bound by a personal code or structured system. Neutral evil is pure self-interest and harm to others without loyalty to honor or chaos. Whereas chaotic evil is destruction, violence, and unbridled selfish desire. In first edition gameplay, these alignments were a defining mechanic of the character as much as what spells you used and what equipment you were carrying, or what your base stats were. In fact, it placed restrictions on many of those same things. Certain spells could only be cast by good or evil aligned players, such as cure spells. Certain classes required the player to maintain neutrality, such as the druid. Players' actions were kept careful tally by the DM behind the screen, and making too many decisions based on the DM's discretion of morality could mean that overlooking a starving child stealing bread meant your paladin lost favor of their god, or helping slay the dragon that was threatening the village cost an evil character their ability to raise the dead. This maintained with some modification to clarify rules and hone the mechanic all the way up till 3rd edition. It even defined certain races as being always evil, or always neutral, or always lawful. And that started to feel sticky to certain players. Like a sort of fantasy racism that was critiqued even in Tolkien. And it's notable that Tolkien himself expressed a desire to develop the evil races in his fantasy world into more dense and nuanced beings as well. And then Skyrim came out. And we got this line.
What is better, to be born good, or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
Most of us just couldn't do it, myself included. I never had a single playthrough where I followed Delphine. Community polls reflect the overwhelming majority of players, estimated at being over 90% of the respondents chose not to slay the dragon, at least not one who was looking to try and overcome his evil nature. We saw some willingness to shift what alignment meant for D&D before this. In 2008, when 4th edition dropped, they introduced alignment as more of a sliding scale. In lawful good, it meant you followed the rules, protected the innocent, and fight for a just society. Good meant you acted with a clear conscience to help others promote freedom without being tied strictly to law or chaos. They replaced neutrality with unaligned. You prefer to stay neutral, look out for yourself, or do what seems best in the moment without picking a side between good or evil. And then evil. You act selfishly, hurt others for personal gain, or rule through tyranny and oppression. Chaotic evil. You act out of pure malice, bloodlust, or total disregard for life, rules, and driven by destructive impulses. Note that law is kind of removed from evil, whereas chaos is removed from good. It kind of suggests that, like, chaos is never good, or that evil can't be lawful, which, like, I have hiccups about that, because, like, laws can be unjust. That doesn't make them chaotic, and it doesn't necessarily make them evil. It just makes them unjust. And these alignments, therefore, while simplified, still don't solve the initial problem with alignment in general, and that was the mechanics issue that also led to an inherent or innate good and evil beings. You still ran into the wall with players who played tieflings, drow, or orcs being labeled as evil, and having to go against that nature, which is probably why Parthenax resonated so well. The choice in 5th edition then was to make alignment more of a descriptive choice, like height, hair color, and whether your character smiled more than they frowned. There's still the basic 9 alignments, but rather than being mechanically restrictive, it just works as a guide to give you a baseline for your character's overall philosophy, bonds, and flaws. So what we're going to do today is take 9 randomly selected characters from across all of our series and put them up on the alignment chart and see where they go. First up is Lawful Good. 5th edition describes Lawful Good in this way. You follow the rules, act with honor, and strive to help others. You're the noble knight. And the character that absolutely fits this most is Bree. She takes rules and fairness extremely seriously, almost to a fault. Remember how she scolds me for being naughty on stream when it's just breaking traffic violations in Night City? Bree is probably one of the most honorable people I know. She acts with integrity and honesty. Sometimes it's hard to convince her not to spoil the story too much because she feels it's justified to explain things you'll want to know, and finds it unfair if we don't. Maybe that's just why bards are typically more chaotically aligned. Anyway, I can't count how many times we've been out and Bree will stop to help someone. And see a person struggling on the street in Atonement, she's got to give them some gold. Her dad can't find something, she jumps up to find it. Me, barely holding it together and absolutely about to blow my lid, calms me back down. Fitting then that Bree is a gold dragon. In our world, it means she was chosen by the dragon god Bahamut as one of his vassals, a dragon paladin. Next is Neutral Good. You do your best to help those in need, regardless of rules or societal expectations. The compassionate rebel. I'm going to dig out of Unforgiven and introduce you to Alyssa Salmon, like the fish. Alyssa is an average girl born to a family of rich contractors. Born in 2001, Alyssa doesn't remember a time before the nuclear bomb that decimated New York City, or the Y2K glitch that upended society. However, she's lived a quiet life walled off from society at large. However, Alyssa's attitude towards others is where her morality tips her into this category for me. The compassion that she shows complete strangers, even those who would sneer and glare in her face, portrays a sort of willingness to step outside of her comfort zone, confront a person who's obviously hurting, and tell them to knock it off. Moving on to Chaotic Good, you act as your conscience dictates, valuing freedom over authority. The anti-establishment hero. This is obviously Martin. I'm going to mostly stay away from monomyth characters because we're trying to broaden some horizons here, but faithful viewers are still mostly monomyth fans, and he's the secondary main character after all. Martin joins the Scottish Rebellion. He cannot suffer a tyrant, and he fiercely values the freedom of all people, even to the point of putting himself in harm's way for people who might otherwise do him harm. Lawful Neutral. You lived by a strict moral code, tradition, or law, regardless of whether the outcome is good or bad. The impartial judge. This is the Void Keeper. Zosimus, Onyx, Pauline, it doesn't matter what name you call them, they're always the same person. For centuries to millennia, the Void Keeper has followed a strict code because their job is always to look out for the timeline and ensure that certain events happen. The outcome of these events are always irrelevant to the Void's desires, so the outcome could be good or bad, but it always must be. Sometimes this leads to heartache, or a war, or a nuclear strike, or people being flung around the timeline on a vortex of fear and darkness. The result is always what will, supposedly, get us to the best possible future, or at least a possible future, without the entire world crumbling into nothing. True Neutral. You steer clear of moral extremes, prioritizing self-interest or balance. The pragmatic survivor. This one is Aaron Tremblay, one of our protagonists from Glitch. Aaron really is just your average person who does what he needs to survive. Prior to Glitch, he's an average student who sometimes argues with his parents, gets along with his siblings, and is somewhat awkwardly romantic with Layla. After the apocalypse, as it were, he becomes more of a self-serving pragmatist. Having to learn how to ration food, bullets, medical supplies, he teaches himself who to trust and who to deceive, and while he does really try to maintain at least a basic sense of moral identity, this is largely driven by what gets him through the night and one day closer to her. Chaotic neutral. You prioritize your personal freedom and follow your whims, disliking rules and restrictions. The unpredictable free spirit. If the Void Keeper is lawful neutral, then the Spirit Keeper is chaotic neutral. Like the Void Keeper, Spirit is known by many names: Lilacan, Luna, Ame, and they are the embodiment of human ingenuity and psychic awareness. I've even heard Void refer to them before as the X Factor, X being an eternal variable in Void's own alignment to keep everything on a strict and narrow path. Spirit isn't afraid to literally do physical surgery on themselves, replacing whole internal organs with cyberware just to get the edge in battle or in the world around them. They answer to almost no one but themselves and will put themselves on the line, up to and including self-sacrifice if the cause calls for it. Lawful evil. You take what you want within the limits of a code, tradition, or loyalty. The calculating tyrant. Now we're getting into the meat of the villains of the series. A lawful evil character in Tales of Atonement is probably Morgan Le Fay. Yes, the same Morgan from Arthurian lore. She's part of the triple goddess Morgan, and embodiment of the goddess Babkatha, the battle crow, a fierce and screaming banshee shrieking from the bowels of darkness, but restrained by the same moral code as all Fae beings. I swear, that's the only thing that doesn't make her straight up chaotic evil, that she's still often bound by evils greater than herself. Neutral evil. You do whatever you can get away with, prioritizing yourself without qualms or compassion. The ruthless mercenary. With a name like Chaotica, you'd think her alignment would be some flavor of chaos, right? Well, that's the importance of how alignment was portrayed in 1st edition compared to 5th. Creatures including Psychons don't have an innate alignment, and it's defined by actions and character flaws. Chaotica lives by her own moral code. She may follow the rules or shift them in subtle ways that lead to bigger consequences down the road. A butterfly effect. Chaos theory. She may be the one who caused the mess, but not often directly. As she once says, she doesn't light the fire, she just hands you the match. This could lead to conflicts even with people she's aligned with, or actions like kidnapping, enslavement, murder, and mental domination that rewrites the genetic code of a being so completely you would never even know she was there. Chaotic evil. You act with ruthless self-interest and a general disregard for the well-being of others. The destructive force. Quote, I'll get what I want from you eventually, even if it kills us. Jack Thorne. Jack Thorne is the villain of Monomyth and is diametrically opposed to Martin. They both run on the same chaotic vein, but where one is a well-meaning rebel defiant of tyranny and the free will of others, Jack isn't afraid to use lies, subversion, destruction, threats, sexual assault, anything he can get what he wants, regardless of the will of others, no matter who he hurts in the process. Jack delved so deeply into the Eldritch Apocrypha it consumed any semblance of well-meaning he ever thought he had, and replaced it with a selfish desire to control, trap, and own a single person. Entire cities burned, countless lives taken, and a soul lost to the abyss. Thank you everyone for your continued support, and I look forward to giving you even more in the future. Our community keeps expanding with authentic viewers and subscribers that tune in every week excited for the next installment. Whether that's listening to my world-building rants or tuning in for a full episode, you're the ones that keep this channel afloat against an unforgiving algorithm that keeps trying to douse the flame. That's the meaning of many a mickle max a muckle. Many smaller things making a big thing. And now, a shout out to our patrons and channel members.
Plebe 64 Potato,
Mr. Lobo King 8778,
P64P,
Regios001,
Jack Plays K Plays,
Maria Elsa 6363,
Moose Now,
El Dragon Biano 3742,
Jack McLeod,
Persephoroth,
Josh is Mary,
Runaway Train 2502,
EA Shadow Gamer,
Sigma LaFlare,
Crochet Whimsy 413.
Anubian the 1335.
Angels Art and Gaming.
Aisha Kashif.
Pluve 81.
Aegis Knight.
7-Star Sanctuary.
And Chained Furry.
T. Mitchell Carr.
MB Durg Wraith.
Emily Masternardi.
Heinrich 28.
Shadow Fox.
Arya Gamari.
Charles Tam.
Jace Morland.
Pammy Poo.
And Lunder Lumen.